Welcome to Rosebud Homestead. It is a beautiful day in mid-September. We're supposed to hit 95 today and all week, so we're still not done with summer-like weather. We are standing outside on our back patio here at our canning station, right outside our back door. And we have had several requests from people to know more information about the canning station, what equipment we have and how we set it up. So that's what we're going to talk about for a few minutes when we come right back. So this is right out the back door. Underneath our patio, it has a covered roof. And we chose this spot for the canning station because it is protected by a roof and by two walls. So it's sort of in a corner. However, we live in a really windy place and we live on a dirt road, so there's lots of dust always blowing around. Now, the reason that we decided to put our canning station outside in the first place is because I have an induction cooktop in my kitchen, and my canner is aluminum, and aluminum does not work on an induction range. In addition to that, I've always camped outside anyway because I prefer it. When I was growing up in a large family, I'm firstborn of 10 children, we used to can hundreds of bottles of fruit every single summer. And Dad would build a fire in the backyard, and we got one of those great big cattle watering troughs that were about 2.5 feet tall and about a 6-foot diameter. And he would fill that with water and put it over the camp stove, bring it to a boil, and we could process about 80 quarts of fruit with every single batch. So I'm sort of used to that, and I'm also used to figuring out and making do with things that we already have on hand. So you'll notice that a little bit when I explain to you what we've done. So here is our camping stove. I keep it covered because of the dust, and I did not buy an expensive cover for it. I just put this one together out of heavy-duty garbage bags. And we keep it covered all the time, except for when we are using it. Now, this is a Camp Chef Expedition 3X. So it has 3 burners, and I have my pressure cooker right here. I'm going to bring it over so that you can sort of get an idea of the relative size of everything. So this is my canner, and I do have 2 of these canners, and I have done processed 2 canners at the same time on this stove. Now, let me tell you a little bit of history about the stoves that we have had. When we first got here, and I wanted to set up this outside, we bought a camp stove. It was a King cooker with a K. It also was a 3-burner, and it was about $140 on Amazon. It had these little wind blocks that were not as nice as these. And once we set it up out here and started canning, and I can year-round. I don't have a canning season. We're always watching for good buys on foods, and I process and can foods all year. One of the things that we noticed right off about that stove was, well, each of the burners was 54,000 BTUs for each burner. And so we had to turn it down to the very lowest flame possible to maintain our pressure level on the dial. And if we turned it up any higher than that, it shot up way past 15 pounds per square inch, which is dangerous, and we couldn't do that. So we had to turn the flame down really low, and the darn flame blew out all the time. And finally, we just got so frustrated with it that we gave that stove to my daughter and her husband, and we got this one. This one is much better. It was also 3 times as expensive. but each of these burners is 30,000 BTUs. And so that gives us much more leeway when we're adjusting the flame. Now, sadly, once in a while, not nearly as often, the flame on this one would burn out. So these little side wind protectors, wind blocks, are not sufficient. And so Jim built this enclosure. Now, this looks like it is, Jim, what is it, 3/4 inch plywood, I think?
Yeah.
So this is 3/4 inch plywood. It's 2 pieces. So this is 8 feet, and this is 4 feet, and of course plywood is 4 feet tall. And then he just put 3 hinges in each of the joints because we wanted to be able to adjust the sides depending on the direction of the wind. And the wind fools us all the time, so it sometimes comes from different angles. Plus, I wanted enough walking around room. I mean, we could have made this much smaller to accommodate this stove, but I wanted walking around room. And here's our propane tank. And so it just sits to the side like that. And then I have the option of having 2 burners. And because right inside this back door is the dining room, generally what we do, Jim sits at the dining room table and does a lot of his studying and prep work for his courses. And so he is the one that watches and listens for how the canner is doing. And so it is quite convenient. The other thing that happens is sometimes we have wind that also comes down or through here. And so I sometimes will take an old quilt. This is an old quilt that I made for my kids when they were little. It's probably 30, 40 years old. And we keep these clips right here. So we just will clip this quilt to either side like this, or sometimes over the top, depending on where the wind comes from, and protect the flame that way. And we've had a lot better luck with this. So we're very satisfied now with this canning station. The other thing that I wanted out here, I don't have running water, but the kitchen is just through the dining room and boom, there's the kitchen. So I do all of my prep in the kitchen and then we bring things out here. And if you've watched our canning videos very much, you've seen me do that many times. The other thing that I needed to have out here, however, was a table. Now this is a very old table. The top is completely ruined. And so I just have thrown a plastic tablecloth over the top. I keep a rack out here for bringing the jars over and then putting them here to cool. So this is pretty much our canning station. And I really recommend canning outside. It is very nice, especially in the summertime, because it keeps the heat out of the kitchen. And the canning heat then stays outside where it's hot anyway, and who notices the difference. So this has worked really well for us. And it's very easy and inexpensive to make a little canning station like this outside. So thanks for joining us on this explanation, and we will see you in our next video.